Mic check. Can you guys hear me? Hello? Okay, I'm not convinced that you guys can hear me. So if you can hear me, respond by finishing this lyric.
3, 2, 3.
Sweet Caroline. Perfect. Perfect. We couldn't not sing. We're two Filipino guys on a podium here, so.
1.5.
1.5, so.
Half Filipino.
Welcome to Catholica. We're so happy to see many of you guys here back again, or whether it's your first time back, welcome. We also welcome for those of you guys that are joining us through live stream. And as a lot of you guys already know, my name is Neil Albania. I'm the Associate Director for the Office of Young Adult and Campus Ministry. And once again, I am joined by my friend Zach here, who is one of our Cafe Catholica team members. And you guys already know the Cafe Catholica events are made possible entirely through your support and generous support of you and for our sponsors as well. So we just want to pause and say thank you to all of you guys that have donated, whether it was last week or this week. And we hope that you can continue to give again so that we can reach our goal. If you'd like to donate online, I don't want to repeat Zach's bit because that's his thing. You can check your page number 22 on your cafe booklet there as well for more details.
But I know the number though. I can say it.
You can say it.
41444.
Or you could go to page 22. So tonight is Spirit Night, so we want to thank you everyone who came up showing some spirit. Let's see if we can call out some of the things we have spirit for. I'm going to call it a few things or teams, and if you guys could do a quick cheer. So for those representing the Astros.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Astros.
All right.
If you're wearing a jersey, please stand up.
Please stand.
Please don't be. For those who are repping Astros, please stand up. We just swept the Dodgers. There we go.
For those representing Houston Rockets, let's go.
Let's go, KD.
KD.
If you're ready to rock, there's somebody with a Filipino Heritage Night Rockets jersey. Shout out to that person. There we go.
Yay.
I wore that last year.
I also want to give a shout out to I saw a lot of soccer teams, so I don't want to show any biasness towards that, but if you're wearing a soccer team jersey, please stand up. We want to cheer for y'all. Dynamo, Mexico,
Argentina's there.
Argentina, let's
Real
go.
Madrid, Hala Madrid.
Let's go.
Barcelona.
We also want to give a shout out to you guys that didn't wear sports. I think I saw some Yu-Gi-Oh, some anime, some Dragon Ball Z fans there, so a little shout out to y'all as well.
All right, Dragon Ball Z.
Let's go.
Cool, so we also have some folks from our local universities and just universities in general with us tonight. So as I call out your university's name, please stand and show some spirit. Will everybody from the University of St. Thomas show us some spirit? Okay, we got some there. All right. And we're going to try and see who has the most spirit, okay? Who has the most spirit? All right, so everybody from Sam Houston State University, please show us some spirit. There we go. 1, 2. Nice. Would everybody from Rice University, those smart people. There you go, a few of y'all. All right, now we're probably a bigger crowd. Texas Tech, those, no, what? Oh, all right, wow, Father. Welcome, showing some spirit. Give us the Holy Spirit too, huh? Would everybody from the University of Texas please stand up and show us some spirit? There we go. All right. Would everybody from Marquette University show some spirit? Woo! Literally the only one. I was just, if there's anybody out there, that'd be kind of cool. Okay. Everybody from Texas A&M, please show us some spirit. All the way from St. Mary's, there you go. Now, special shout out to everybody who's on the Galveston campus. Please show some spirit of A&M. No?
They're here somewhere.
They are still at the beach. We understand that. And finally, everybody from the University of Houston, please show some spirit. University of Houston. I should have seen y'all in the Elite Eight last year, Marquette against University of Houston. Okay, So we are glad that you are all here, and I know that it's easy to find community in college. Please know that for those of you in college, when you graduate and move back to Houston, that you can also continue to find community and maybe your vocation through Cafe Catholica. Yeah. All right, give a round of applause for Cafe Catholica, everyone. So also, for those of you who are college age, we also want to especially invite you to join us for the upcoming Bayou Awakening Retreat. Yeah, so has anyone gone to an awakening retreat where there's Bayou, Longhorn, Aggie Awakening? Give us some spirit. There we go. All right. And now it's Neil's turn.
Oh, yeah. So we want to transition into the talk portion of the evening. Tonight's talk is called Starting a New Chapter, 10 Questions with Archbishop Joe Vasquez. If you've attended Cafe Catholica over the past years, you may remember Q&A nights with Cardinal Bernardo. And we've also heard from many of you guys about your frustration and maybe your disappointments when these questions that are especially close to your heart as young adult community and to yourself personally were not answered. So this year, in preparation for our evening with Archbishop Vasquez, we invited our Cafe Catholica planning team, those that you guys see wearing the blue shirts saying Cafe Catholica, made of young adults to listen to their communities, reflect deeply, and compile a top 10 questions that truly reflect what's stirring in the hearts of young adults across our archdiocese. And with these questions, we hope to explore the themes that are important to you guys, especially when it comes to purpose, discernment, vocation, how to engage with the world we live in today, and living our call to discipleship, all through the lens of the virtue of hope.
And so with this in mind, we would like to tell you a little bit about our speaker, Archbishop Vasquez. Archbishop Vasquez was born in Stamford, Texas, and is the oldest of 6 siblings. He has deep roots in faith, family, and service to others. He was ordained a priest in 1984 and has spent decades serving communities across Texas with a heart for the people and a gift for pastoral leadership. Installed as Archbishop of Galveston, Houston in March of 2025, he's also a national voice in the church, and he continues to serve nationally as consultant to the USCCB's Pro-Life Committee and in other leadership roles across the church. He's a shepherd, passionate about faith, life, service, and accompanying people in every stage of their journey. And I also heard that he supports Houston sports. We will now invite Archbishop Vasquez, and Neil and I will ask the questions here and facilitate it. So without further ado, please welcome our Archbishop Vasquez.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. Thank y'all for the warm welcome. So it's great to be here with y'all.
So Archbishop, we're going to ask you a series of questions, and each group of questions touches us on a reality that many of us young adults are living through right now. So let's begin with the questions that touch on the core of so many of us young adults in our journeys here today, discovering who we are and why we're here. In other words, our identity and purpose. So for the first question, Archbishop Vasquez, what would you believe is the most worthwhile pursuit for a young adult at this stage of life?
It's a great question because I think it's one which a lot of people are asking themselves. In your stage of life as young people, it's good to stay connected. My belief is to the church. I think that's the most important thing you can do, is to stay connected with the church. I say that for a couple of reasons. First of all, because I think community is one of the things that's really sought after in our world today. How do I belong? Where do I belong? Where can I discover who I'm called to be? And to me, the best place to do that is in the safety of the Catholic Church. The church is really where, hopefully, you found a home and a community, and that you can feel that you really do belong here in this community. One of the things that Jesus does very early on in his ministry is that he starts to call people to himself as disciples. So he begins the ministry, and then almost immediately he's calling people to belong, to be part of, to associate with him. Now, he's the one who's forming them, leading them, guiding them, shepherding them, but he's the center for them. But he's calling them together to be a community. It's not just a group of individuals, but he really is trying to make them one. And that's because he was preparing them for the foundation of the church. He was preparing them to create this entity we now call the church. The church, as we know, is established by Christ, and it's a gift to the world because we continue the work of Christ in the world today. So, to me, the most important place for you to be is in the church. It's in the church. Now, saying that also means you're not going to find the church to be perfect. If you're looking to find perfection, don't come looking in the Catholic Church, because quickly you're going to be disappointed. But that doesn't mean that Christ did not establish the Catholic Church as the entity on this earth to continue his work. That still continues. The church is still fulfilling Christ's mission, proclaiming good news, celebrating the sacraments, continuing to take care of the poor. The church continues to do that now, in this time, in this date. But belonging, I think, is one of the most important things. Why? Because I think also another thing is there's so much separation that's taking place in our society today. And too many people, I think, separate themselves from one another, and then problems begin. Issues take place. But as long as you stay in a community like the church, our church, then I think you have a good chance of discovering who you are, who God is calling you to be. As I mentioned in my homily tonight, and Jacob, who we read in that first reading from the book of Genesis, is not a perfect person. He's completely imperfect. And that is really important for us to remember. God does not call perfect people. Christ does not call perfect people. I think too many times we believe that if I get good enough or holy enough, then I can start doing God's work. When in reality, it's just the other way. It's first Christ called all these individuals, brought them to himself, and then they became holy. But it didn't happen first. It wasn't that they were holy enough and that's why he chose them. In fact, he chose them because some of them had some very serious issues and problems. But he never disassociates himself from them. So to me, that's hopefully answers a little bit to that question about why it's important to stay connected to the church, to discover who it is that God is calling you to be in this community, which is not perfect and which you need to belong to, so we can continue the work of Christ in the world today.
Amen. Thank you, Archbishop Vasquez. Under that same question of identity and purpose, the second question is, how can us young adults who are still discerning our vocation to be a gift to the church right now, not just in the future, what leadership roles or areas of service should we consider?
Yeah. Again, a great question to me, because the future of our Catholic Church relies upon you as young people. We need you now. Not 10 years from now, not 5 years from now. We need you now in the church. You bring so many great gifts to us. Your enthusiasm, your excitement, you make us question ourselves. You make us understand ourselves better, but it's because you belong to the church. You're already part of it. And you should be involved in leadership roles. You should be involved in pastoral council, finance council. You should be involved in all types of leadership in our church. You should be extraordinary ministers of Holy Communion. You should be part of the choir. You should be lectors. You should be teaching religious education now, not in the future, but at this very moment. So your role is key and critical in us. So I'm asking you, please, to get involved. And sometimes in our parishes, I've got to say this with all sincerity, sometimes in our churches, in our parishes, we go and belong to parishes, and it's the same people doing everything. It's the same people doing this ministry and that ministry and 10 other ministries, instead of allowing others to take part. And that is a sad situation in our church, when we have the same people in charge of everything. It doesn't allow us to grow. It doesn't allow us to expand and to call others with their gifts. You already have gifts. You already are blessed by God with so many talents. So don't let others deny that in you, and put those gifts at the service of others. So please don't separate yourselves just because you see that in a community, in a church, and say, well, gosh, I really have nothing to contribute or to give. The other thing is, talk to your pastors. Talk to your pastors. I think as a former pastor of a parish, I really appreciated when young people came and sought me out and talked with me. It was really a blessing for me to hear what it is that was in their hearts. What were they concerned about? What are they worried about? What do they want from the church? What are they asking me to be, even as a priest? So please, please do not stay away. Get involved. Get to know your pastor. Put your gifts at the service of the church. Put your gifts in the service of the church. Many of you, I presume, are already quite involved in our Catholic Church, and that's great. It's great. Please, please continue that. Please continue that, because we really, really do need you. We do need you. Vocation, which is really a good part of that, I think is essential. So just want to share a little bit about my own vocation story, if you'll permit me. And it happened long, long ago. I was a senior in high school, went to a retreat, high school retreat. And during that retreat, there was a particular moment when we were in the church. There's like maybe 100 of us. We were spread around the church, and we were praying there in front of the Blessed Sacrament. And I heard very clearly the voice of God, Christ, say to me, I want you to be my priest. And that scared me. It wasn't like I heard this voice out loud, but more interiorly, if you will. I want you to be my priest. And it came back again. And first of all, I thought, maybe I'm just imagining this. Here I am in front of here in front of Christ, here in the church, praying, thinking to myself, maybe it's just my imagination that believes that that's what I heard. So I continued praying, but it came back again. And when it came back again, then I said to Christ, do you know who I am? Do you know how I am, what I do, how I live? And I really wanted to say to Christ, I'm not really worthy of this calling. I'm not worthy of the calling. I'm not good enough, not holy enough, not smart enough. There's always excuses that we can always bring to Christ. But so in that prayer moment, I said to Christ, if it's really you, I need a sign. So I was putting God to the test, if you will, at that moment. As I continued praying, at that retreat, the vocations director of the diocese was there. And he came literally and sat right next to me. And he said to me, are you thinking about being a priest? And I was like blown away. I was like, oh my gosh. I asked for the sign, and I got the sign. So whatever Christ is calling you to do, don't be afraid of entering the dialogue and having that discussion with him. And if you put him to the test, he will respond. I can assure you of that. It will not maybe be the way you want it to be, but he will respond because he hears us. He listens to us. And the great thing about Christ, he takes us seriously. Your life to him is very important, precious, a treasure, a gift. So please as you discern whatever it is God is calling you to be, whether it's married life or single life or priesthood or religious life, be open to whatever it is. To whatever it is. Let the Lord speak to you. And yes, you will never be good enough or holy enough or whatever the excuse will be. But he calls us to be his disciples. And for those vocations to be, he's going to call us individually. That's the great thing about him. He doesn't call us as a whole group. He calls us individually, and he knows each one of you by name. And he knows each one of you and your situation. And he still calls you, even when he knows everything that you've done, or everything you've thought, or everything you're going through. He still calls you.
Thank you. Next, we're going to turn to a topic that many young adults wrestle with. How do we hear and follow God's voice in our lives? And that's also known as discernment. But the question is, Archbishop Vasquez, what advice would you give to young adults to help them discern and follow God's voice, especially when discerning their vocation?
Yeah, I believe the first step, which is really important, is develop a prayer life. Develop a life of prayer. That takes different directions. There's different ways of praying. I understand all that. Some pray before the Blessed Sacrament. Some of you pray very quietly in your room. Some pray with Scripture. There are various ways of praying. Praying the Rosary. All of these prayer activities are great. A thing is, that's most important is, do you have a relationship with Christ? Do you have a relationship with Christ? You cannot know Christ unless you have a relationship with him. You've got to have a relationship with him. And it's because we need to get to know him. We need to know his heart. We need to know what he wants, what he's asking us to be. But you have to spend time with Christ. There is no wasted moment when you pray. There is not a wasted moment. And that doesn't mean that you're going to feel great every time you pray either. I can assure you of that anyone who's lived long enough and prayed long enough knows that sometimes you pray because that's what you should be doing. You're faithful to your prayer life. And it's not because it always feels good. It's not because it makes you feel great, or all of a sudden you had this great inspiration that took place. No. Sometimes it's just being faithful. Faithful, faithful, faithful. Every day, every day, every day. So prayer to me is the most important part in discovering what it is that God wants you to do. So discernment is always going to be about prayer. The other thing is finding someone who can help you. Finding someone who can help you. And by that, can you find someone, maybe a priest or a religious sister or someone who's involved in the church, someone who's close that you can say, I respect that person. I know that that person really lives their faith well, and I want to know what it is they have. When I discerned my vocation as a priest, there was something that happened in our home parish that was really a great blessing. A young priest came to be the pastor of the church. Before that time, there were only old priests in that parish. But all of a sudden, this newly ordained priest was sent to the parish. Well, he'd been already maybe a priest, maybe already 2 years, 3 years. Very young to become a pastor. But what he brought to the parish was this youthfulness, and most importantly, he was joyful. He was a joyful priest. He enjoyed what he was doing, celebrating the sacraments, celebrating the Eucharist, visiting the sick, being with young people, being with married couples, being with the elderly. And to me, that was so attractive that I said to myself, I want what he has. I want what he has. That joyfulness, that attraction about being a priest really moved my heart. And that really was what really motivated me to then consider the seminary. So that calling happened early on, and then this priest just confirmed it. He confirmed it and made it real. So prayer, finding someone who can be a spiritual guide, a mentor to you, is really important. Really important. I think that those two things are really important. The other thing is, too, the sacraments. The sacraments, particularly confession and Eucharist. Those three things to me are like key and critical if you're going to discover what it is that God wants you to do. And the thing about God is that he never gives up on any one of us. And he will chase us down because he loves us so much that he's going to pursue us. Even when we don't pursue him, he will keep coming back to us and keep moving our hearts and keep moving our lives in the direction that we need to go. And even when we mess up, really mess up, he still continues to be part of our lives. He does not say, well, I'm done with you. I'm rejecting you. I'm finished with you. No. He stays faithful because he's faithful. Even when we are unfaithful, he will be faithful to the end. So we can always rely on that he's going to be there for us.
Thank you, Archbishop. Now we're going to shift into the topic of engaging our culture and what it looks like to live our Catholic faith in today's world, especially in a culture that often pulls us in many directions. So the question would be, how would you encourage young adults to live out their Catholic faith authentically amid today's polarized political and cultural climate?
Yes. Our world today is polarized. And you can see that in our politics, where people just can't agree on anything on political life. The sad thing to me is that we not allow ourselves in the church to become polarized. But I think that that's probably already happening in our parishes, in our communities, where people kind of bring their politics into the church, and sometimes politics over their faith even. They're more faithful to their politics than they are to what we believe as Catholics. And that's a sad thing when people put their faith second and not first. So to me, that's a big problem, how we can overcome that. First of all, don't give up on your Catholic faith. What the church teaches, what we believe as Catholics, don't ever say, I can compromise it. Don't compromise your faith. Don't compromise what we teach about life, the dignity of the human person. Don't ever compromise what we teach against certain sins or about who we are as people or what we should do to take care of the poor. Don't ever compromise who we are. But that doesn't mean that you can't be respectful to people who we disagree with. We're going to disagree with. So that's just natural, that's normal. But the thing is not to ever give up on them and never to demean them or diminish them or make them be inferior to us. The worst thing we can do is when we have a disagreement with somebody is either to make them be bad, evil, wrong, whatever you want to say, judging them not to be worthy of our respect. No. Even Christ in the scriptures, he always had that respect for people, even when they disagreed with him. He had respect. He never lost that respect for them. To me, that's really important. That's really important that you be able to do that. Have dialogue, have discussion, but don't compromise your faith. Don't give up your values because the world says give up your values or compromise your values. Then we can get along. Then no, that's not really getting along at all. That's not working for unity. No, it will go against us in the long run. So you stay firm in your Catholic faith, but you should always be willing and unafraid to engage. I really do remember very clearly Pope Francis saying very clearly he wanted a church that was out on the streets. I don't know if y'all remember that saying. I want a church that's out on the streets, that's dirty, that's injured, instead of a church that's locked in on itself, that's trying to protect itself, and itself taking care of only itself and not really worried about going beyond. A church that's out there with the world is great. Why? Because we have the best message of all. That's Christ. That's the best message of all. And the world is hungering for Christ. And we have that opportunity to bring Christ to others. And that's the church. That's who we are. That's why being disciples is so important. Witnessing to your Catholic faith. Not being afraid to say, I'm Catholic. Not being afraid to say, this is what I believe. This is what I believe because this is what Christ taught. So that to me is very important. I hope and pray that we as Catholics continue to believe the best place for us to find unity is going to be here in this church, our church. And the world, I think, has an opportunity to really discover unity, what it really means in this community, in our church.
Thank you. This next question is related to our mission as a church. So Archbishop Vasquez, how can we as a church respond to a growing number of young adults who are disaffiliating or leaving the Catholic faith?
Yeah, that's a tough question. It's a tough question. How do we keep people connected with our church? That is very, very challenging for us because it's sad to say that we as a Catholic Church are losing so many young people, particularly in your age. They're leaving the church. They're just not finding what they're looking for, or they disagree with what we believe, or they've been completely put out by bad example, whether it's from the priests, bishops, or lay people. And we have to take responsibility for that. We can't simply say that's someone else's problem. We have to take responsibility. And that means that we have to live in a certain way that witnesses to Christ and being willing to live by those standards, which are high, and being willing to take care of others. But it's a challenge for us. It's a challenge. I have in my own family, and maybe you do in your own family, yes, members of my own family that have left our church. They're going to other churches now. And it's hard. It's hard. It's hard for my family when we get together. I continue to love them. I continue to be present to them. I continue to offer what I can to them. And that's really important. Never close off those doors of dialogue. Continuing to engage them. They're asking some difficult questions, and I think we as a church have to be ready to answer those difficult questions. Can we answer those difficult questions that young people are asking about what's the meaning of life? Why am I here? What's all this about? What's my identity? All of those questions, and even the questions such as having to do with whether it's sexuality, having to do with abortion, euthanasia, transgender issues, IVF, all these questions, we should be ready to have an answer for them, not be afraid to engage them. Don't ever be afraid of engaging them, because what we're all seeking is truth. And when somebody's seeking truth, hopefully they'll pursue it long enough and discover it. And that we have the truth, because Christ is in his church. So we have the assurance and reassurance that yes, Christ is here and will indeed help us to help people stay connected to the church. The other thing is too, don't ever be afraid of inviting someone to come back. Don't be afraid of asking someone to come back. I know that several times in airports I've been, or in airplanes, someone will sit next to me and begin a conversation. Are you a priest? You know, well, yeah, I think dressed like this, you know, yes, I'm a priest, yes. And it amazes me how open people will be in that moment. how they'll open up their lives. And it can be about, they're struggling with something, they're facing some difficulty, maybe a death of someone. This has now been several years ago when I had this experience on an airplane, and this gentleman sat next to me, and we just started talking about the church, and eventually got to the point where he says, I used to be a Catholic, and those are probably some of the most difficult words for me to hear. I used to go to Catholic church. I used to belong to the Catholic Church. That really, it goes to my heart, because I feel that. It's like, oh no, you've left the church for whatever reason, but it breaks my heart knowing that this person is in that. And in that conversation with that gentleman, that man, I eventually came to the point to say, you're always welcome in the church. You're always welcome in the church. And so I invited him back. And one of the things that was really interesting in that conversation was that he said, I no longer believe in a personal God. In a personal God. I thought, gosh, what do you believe in if you don't believe in a God that's concerned about you, that loves you, that's interested in your life? What kind of a God would you be, relating to? So those kind of things really do stand out for me, but never to be afraid of engaging and being able to speak to people. That is so essential, so important. So just one more last story about this question. About 2 years ago, when I was still Bishop of Austin, a young man called me. He was in his 20s. And he said, you may not remember me, but you gave me First Communion long ago. And you were really close to my grandmother, and she always looked up to you, and she always thought you were very good to her. And he said to me, would you have time for me to come in and speak with you about some things that are going on in my life? Had lost a very close colleague at work and was just now asking some very serious questions, and also had been away from the church for quite a while. And I just felt I have to listen to this man. I have to call him. And so I responded, yes, I'll make time for you. Made time for him. He came in, and we spent about an hour together just talking about different questions that he was having, issues that he was concerned about. We prayed together. And was able to connect him with a priest in the diocese so that he could continue that journey. I think a lot of people feel that no one really wants to accompany them in this journey of faith, and that becomes problematic for so many people. So again, on my part, it's being open, listening, helping, but being also truthful. Be truthful about Christ and about his church and what we believe. It's about being truthful.
Thank you, Archbishop. And we want to close the last few questions on a note of encouragement, because we know that many of us young adults carry quiet struggles, but also have great hopes for what's ahead. So the first question would be, what would your encouragement be to us young adults experiencing a time of despair, disconnection, or spiritual dryness?
Yeah. Well, I'm not letting you into a deep secret, but we all experience that. If you're Catholic, if you're Christian, you're going to experience moments of desolation. You're going to experience some spiritual dryness. It doesn't mean that God has left you. It doesn't mean that God no longer is concerned about you. God is still part of your life. What happens is, in a relationship, particularly if you stay long enough in a relationship with Christ, is that the feelings that we used to attach to our prayer life start to go away. Those feelings of what we felt like, we felt great and we felt holy, we felt wonderful in the relationship. It's like when you fall in love with someone. You ever fall in love with someone and you can't get enough of that person? You fall in love with them, and every time you're with them, your heart just flutters and it gets bigger and you feel great. And that's wonderful. But as time goes on, you may no longer have those feelings. But does that mean that the relationship is no longer there? No. Somehow it moves to a deeper level. It moves to a deeper level. And by that I mean that you in your spiritual life have to move to a deeper level and not just leave it on the feeling level. It can't stay on the feeling level. You can't survive on the feeling level. That's why I love great examples of married life. People who've lived 25 and 40 years and 50 years of married life. Well, what is it that keeps them going? It can't be the beauty of their bodies anymore, right? They're not youthful. They don't have the slim fit anymore. All those things are starting to go away. Those things, those physical things. Why do they stay together? Because they discovered something more. And it's a deeper love for one another. Love is a commitment that you make. It's something from the will. You have to really say, I love this person and I'm committed to them. I'm willing to suffer with them. I'm willing to endure with them. So to me, in the spiritual life, yes, we're all going to go through desolation. We're all going to go through dryness. It's going to be difficult sometimes. But again, it's up to you whether you're going to be committed to your prayer life or not. It's something only you can do. Nobody else can do it for you. There's no substitute. There are no shortcuts, really, in the spiritual life. There are no shortcuts in the spiritual life. So I would just say, please don't give up. Be faithful. Be faithful.
Thank you. And so right now we are in a Jubilee year of hope, pilgrims of hope. And so what does hope mean to you personally? And what are your hopes and plans for the young adult community in our archdiocese?
Yeah. First of all, hope, at least the Christian understanding of hope, the Catholic understanding of hope, is it's always connected with the person of Christ. It's always about Christ. It's not something. It's not desiring a great outcome. It's not optimism. It's not optimism, or I hope I win the lottery. You know, that kind of stuff. That's not hope. Hope is always based on a person. That's the person of Jesus Christ, and particularly that Christ suffered, died, and rose from the dead. That's our hope. It keeps pointing us to the future and says, one day, I too will participate in that life of Christ for eternity. So it's pushing me in that direction. It's always telling me, eventually, I'm going to experience that life of hope. In our world today, and I think the reason that Pope Francis chose this Jubilee theme about disciples of hope is because he knows the world is really struggling with discovering what hope is. He chose that theme purposely because he knew it was difficult in our world today to find hope. When so many people are struggling, just simple things, whether it's illness, loss of job, separation, broken relationships, all those things speak of a world that's broken. But the only one who can bring about healing, restoration, life, is Christ. Is Christ. Particularly in the sacrament of the Eucharist. The Eucharist. That is wonderful that we as a Catholic Church have that ability to celebrate Eucharist. We're able to give that hope to people. And it's Christ. It's Christ we're giving. We're not giving ourselves. It's Christ we're giving to others. So to me, I would pray that all of us become really disciples of hope, that we bring people hope. We bring not ourselves, but really Christ to others.
Well, thank you, Archbishop Vasquez, for being with us tonight. Let's all give him a round of applause.
Thank you.
And we have a bonus question tonight.
Yes. Yes.
This is an open-ended question. There's no right answer. And is there anything else that you would like to share with the young adults tonight? Perhaps that we weren't able to get to the question or your homily, just from the heart.
Just one last thing, and that is just to share a little bit shared my vocation story as a priest. Want to share a little bit about my vocation as a bishop. First of all, when you are ordained a priest, and after you've served your life, that was what I loved the most, was just being a pastor. That's what gave me passion, love, enjoyment. When you serve others and take care of others, and especially when you become a pastor in a church and you become a spiritual father. Becoming a spiritual father was one of the best things that I could have ever experienced. But becoming a bishop is different. First of all, you don't apply to become a bishop. There's no such thing as, oh, let me see if I can. And people even say that to me. So you became a priest, and now how did you become a bishop? Did you seek it out? Were you like looking for it? Or how do you find it? Or how did you get it? But you don't seek it out. I hope you don't seek it out if you're a priest. It's something that you are called to be. The Pope is the only one who gets to call bishops. And so this is my story and experience about how it came to be. It was Thanksgiving in 2001. I went home to see my family on Thanksgiving Day. And when I came back on Saturday, that was 2 days later, there was a message on, at that time we still had these recordings, telephone recordings. So no cell phones in that time. This was telephone recordings. So there was a message there from the nuncio of the United States saying, Father Vasquez, please call me. And he left his number. He didn't say anything. And when I got there was like 2 messages there. So I thought, this is either really good or really bad. There's no in between. It's going to be one or the other. Really good, really bad. And so I called. And he said, yes, I'm the nuncio. And the Holy Father, John Paul II, has named you to be auxiliary of Galveston, Houston. Do you accept? And that's the only question he asked, do you accept? And I said, well, I'd like to pray about it. I want to think about this. This is pretty big. This is pretty important. Yes, you're right. You can talk to your spiritual director or your confessor, but no family, no friends, no one else. I said, okay, good, thank you. He says, you have 3 hours. You have 3 hours to decide. I have to tell the Holy Father in Rome, and he's going to announce this, and this is the date it's going to be announced. It's like, okay. So I took the 3 hours, and I went to the church, and I prayed. It was quiet because no one was around. It was the holiday weekend, and so I got to pray quietly. And the only thing I asked God, Christ, was, if this is really from you, and again, here I am, again, putting God to the test. If this is really from you, then you're going to give me peace in my heart. I will experience peace if this is really from you. And I did. I experienced peace. And I said yes. And I came here. And that was 15 years ago when I came here. So it's been a great blessing to be a bishop, and now I'm back here to serve you. And it's all got to be part of God's plan. I didn't make this up. I didn't plan it. I wasn't hoping for it. This is the way God works. He's full of surprises. I hope you experience God as full of surprises, because he never fails me in surprising me. So that's where I will end. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much again. And before we end tonight, we have just a few final announcements.
First, we want to invite you guys to return next week to at the same time, same place, Monday, July 14th, for our third night of the series. Next week, we'll be welcoming National Catholic speaker Paul J. Kim as he speaks on the topic that we all desperately need, because let's be honest, adulting can be hard. The title is Hope for Your Future, A Catholic's Guide to Adulting.
So please also remember that we have Cafe Connect discussion groups. They're still available. You can still sign up online. So please, if you haven't already, please go to www.archgh.org/Cafe Catholica. If you can't remember that, it's somewhere in that little book that we gave to you. We just have 3 more weeks to be with these new friends. It's only for the month of July. So really take advantage of this opportunity. And I'd like to give a personal shout out to the Tuesday, 7 p.m. Best Cafe Connect group in Southwest Houston. There we go. Yeah. Thank you, Spanky.
At the conclusion of our evening, don't forget about the happy hours hosted by the How To Foundation and Catholic Beer Club. This week's happy hour will be at Post Oak Ice House in Richmond Avenue. You can find the details on page 5.
And my favorite topic. Finally, as we end tonight, let me update you on our amazing fundraiser thermometer to see where we're at. Drumroll, please. We have now collected $4,415 towards our $6,000 goal. It is more difficult to say the number than it is to give, so feel free to give. Y'all are so great. This is absolutely wonderful.
Thank you. And thank you to all of you guys who donated tonight.
And thank you for everyone who is going to donate tonight.
Thank you again for coming. And if you have yet to, don't forget to sign up for a Cafe Connect discussion group. God bless y'all and have a good night.
Buenos noches.
Magandang gabi.
Isiku and Gemma.
Umaya suminasai.
Peace out. Until next week.
I don't know if you're going to do that last word, but
I like
you went for it.
All right. I think